how do you balance being FOI, husband, and a provider?
Balance, the human being, if we haven't noticed by now, but we should maybe pay attention to it, it's a life journey as we struggle for balance. And as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stated in that beautiful study guide, he said that our first inclination is naturally towards God. But when we kind of get distracted, if we're not careful, we can make God secondary and make other things or other people primary. And so balance in the life of a Muslim is finding the place where our relationship, first and foremost, with Allah is solid enough to address other things without being distracted away from Him.
Okay.
And that is easier said than done.
Absolutely.
So as I reflect upon the balance of mission, because now I have to be honest, there are certain people that are called to faith for the mission that are not married, but end up getting married in the mission, like I did and me and my wife did. We had already both committed to Allah and were already functioning. She was functioning before I was. And then I came a little later and we were both functioning, trying to build a relationship with God and to be workers in the mission. And so how God calls you can determine, as you build other forms of relationships, those who come into your circle may run into the fact that you're called to that service first. And one of the most trying things to any man or woman that God calls for a specific work is someone who doesn't understand that. Because naturally they want to be first. When in truth, the mission, it goes right along with God. But it's different levels to that for everybody. So I thank Allah, first and foremost, to, as you grow, because I got married, I was a little boy when me and Sister Tracy got married. And so Sister Tracy married a little boy that looked like a man. Well, I looked like a little boy. I didn't physically look like a little boy, but in terms of age, right? But mature naturally in my life, I didn't have enough life experience. So I sounded like a mature man because I had been invited to very sound wisdom, a very sound teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, an expression of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So our journey had to take different lanes because I immediately, almost right after we got married, became the student minister of the mosque. So not only was I a newly married little boy, I was a new little boy minister over grown people. And for some, they don't like that kind of language I'm using. What? Yeah, well, you didn't live it. I lived it. I know they looked at me like a little boy. So the reality is I can say that because lack of life experience. So life, in terms of trying to achieve balance, whatever it is that you have, has to be first met with who's the center of that relationship, as Minister Farrakhan said. And we all tug. I tug at my wife. I want to be the center of attention. My wife tugs back at me. I want to be the center of attention. Then if you have children, of course, naturally, they always want to be the center of attention. So this is like working out. The main thing is, as I close this point about balance, is never lose faith. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that Islam is neither moderate nor is it extreme. But we have extremism in the religion and we have very soft moderations of it. He said that Islam is the middle ground. It's right in the middle. So in our lives as husbands, as wives, as soldiers in the cause, helpers of the messenger, the moment that we're in the middle ground and we start going this way, that could be extremity coming. We get extreme. But the thing is, we got to get back and find our way back to that middle ground. But then sometimes we get a little weak over here, and we got to find ourselves back to the middle ground. So I thank Allah that, you know, to have a family that stuck with me, to put up with me naturally maturing as a man. When I say naturally maturing, I'm talking about naturally maturing, and with believers that allowed me to grow into my natural manhood, as well as the real responsibility of shepherding a flock. But it's not easy, and it doesn't stop. It only seems to be a little easier for those of us that are committed to staying in the process. As the minister says, don't abort the process because of difficulty, right? And the reality for me is that, you know, any of us that are grandparents, you know, we had so much trial and error with our own children. By the time we get some grandchildren, it look like we experts, right? It's because we've come through something by Allah's grace, and then our children may look at us and be like, man, you ain't never treat me like that. Right. So I'm just saying, it's easier said than done, but make sure that whenever we seem to veer, and you can recognize that you're veering off the center, right, the middle ground, go on and jump back to that middle ground, and we'll find peace and comfort in the midst of our trial.